Hello everyone. In this next video, we're also going to be talking about rewriting equations that are standard form into vertex form, but this one looks a little bit different because in the last video, we went over how to do this, but the number in front of x squared, our leading coefficient, was just +1. So we just had x squared, yada, yada, yada. Now, the number in front of x squared is not 1. We have a 2 in front, and that makes this procedure a little bit different. So we just have to add a little bit of a twist to this. So it's mostly the same steps. We start off, we take this equation, we set it equal to 0. And then we still have that same first step where we're moving our constant over to the right side. Now, this is where things take a little bit of a turn. We don't do b over 2 squared just yet. Now what we have to do is we got to factor out the number in front of x squared. So move that out in front in parentheses. So we want our equation to look something like this. Now we just need to figure out, okay, since we're factoring out a 2, what is left inside the parentheses when we divide both of these things by 2? So 2x squared divided by 2, just x squared. Negative 8x divided by 2 is just negative 4x. Okay, now we pretty much just do the same thing, but our b value is no longer negative 8, it's now going to be negative 4. So this is our b value, and so off to the side, now we're going to do b over 2 squared. So b is just negative 4. So we get +4. And so this step is where I see the most mistakes. You have to be very, very careful here. So we're adding a +4 inside of the parentheses here. And now this is where I see the most common mistake, and it's that people will add a +4 to this side, because whatever we do to one side, we got to the other side. So we added a +4 to this side, so that means we have to add a +4 to this side. Be very, very careful here. If you were to distribute this 2 inside of the parentheses here, you'd be left with the equation 2x squared minus 8x plus 8. Whereas before, on the step before, if you were to distribute that 2, you'd just be left with 2x squared minus 8x plus 0. So what did you technically just add to that left side? Since there is a 2 outside of the parentheses here, and you put a 4 inside of the parentheses, it means you're technically adding 4 times 2 inside, or to the left side of your equation. So to figure out what goes in this spot, it's going to be +8. You have to take this and this. And you multiply them. 2 times 4 is 8. So you multiply 2 times 4, you add that to both sides. This was a negative out in front, it'd be 4 times -2, you subtract 8. So please make sure to remember that step. That's where I see by far the most mistakes. And now we just do the same thing we did before. So I told you guys in the last video to figure out what we can factor, x squared minus 4x plus 4. You just use the formula x minus b over 2 squared. So this is just going to become 2 parentheses x 9 plus 8 is 17. I told you to figure out what goes in the blank spot right here. You're just taking b and you're dividing by 2. So b is -4. What's -4 divided by 2? -2. So So there's just going to be a -2 here. So I told you to get from this step to this step. You're just using the formula. That's all you're using. And then the 2 is just coming along for the ride. The 17 is just coming along for the ride. And now the last step is we got to move this 17 over to the other side. So what we do is we just subtract 17. We're left with we just throw y equals out front. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our final equation. So now, just like I did in the last video, I now want to go over how we can interpret this equation, what it tells us about a graph. So, as I said in the last video, we did this a couple weeks ago, so it should kind of look familiar. This equation tells us a lot. So first, it tells us the vertex. And it also tells us about the multiple transformations that this graph has that make it different from the parent graph y equals x squared. So first off, the vertex, to find the vertex, you're just using the number inside the parentheses and the number outside on the end. So the number inside the parentheses, that tells you the x value of your vertex. But the one note about this is whatever the number is inside of the parentheses, you just flip the sign, and that will be the x value for the vertex. So inside the parentheses, we have a -2, so the x value for the vertex is a +2. Next, the number out on the end of our equation, we have a -17 there. So that means the y value for our vertex is at -17. You're just taking that exact number, you're not flipping the sign. Now, the transformations. There's 4 types of transformations that we've talked about, and that is moving to the left or right, up and down, the reflections, does it flip, and lastly, is the graph skinnier or is it wider? So, the last 2, first off, does the graph flip? Is there a reflection? And the answer to that question is no, there's no reflection. So there's nothing to write about in terms of reflection. Since we only have a reflection if there is a negative out in front of our parentheses. So if this was a -2, then yes, we'd be able to say there's a reflection, or we could also say, yes, the graph flips. Remember, it looked like an N shape versus a U shape if there's a negative out in front, but there is no negative. So it's gonna look like a U still. Next, is the graph skinnier, is it wider? And we tell that by the number that's in front. So if there was a 1 in front, like there was in the last video, then the graph's just the same. It's not any skinnier, any wider than the parent graph. But the general rule is now, if that number is not a 1, if it is a number that is greater than 1, like a 2, it's gonna make the graph skinnier. If it's a fraction, if it's less than 1, like 1/2, then it would make the graph wider. Here, we have a whole number that's greater than 1, so we know that the graph is gonna be wider. You just put wider, you can put wider by a factor of 2, since it's a 2 out in front that's making it wider. And then next we need to interpret this -2 inside the parentheses and this -17 outside. So the number inside the parentheses, it tells us how much we're moving to the left or the right by. And if the number is negative, it means we're moving to the right. If it's positive, it means we're moving to the left. This is a -2, so it tells us we're moving to the right. Lastly, we have a -17 out on the end. This number tells us how much we're going up or down by. If it's negative, we're going down by that number. If it's positive, we're going up by that number. It's a -17. So that tells us we're going down 17. And that's it for this video, guys.